Government principles, checks and balances. The separation of powers creates the three branches to limit the concentration of power in the hands of a few. The question is, how are we going to keep that separate? So we have our three branches: legislative, we make the laws; the executive branch, this branch carries out or enforces the laws; and then we have the judicial branch, who interprets the laws and is also our court system. So with each branch having specific powers granted to them by the Constitution, the Founding Fathers wanted to make sure that no one branch tried to assume more power than it was assigned. That's where checks and balances come in. We'll start with the executive branch first. The executive branch has checks on both the legislative branch as well as checks on the judicial branch. Let's use an example of Congress in the legislative branch makes a law that the president does not feel is appropriate for the country. He has the ability to veto laws after they are passed by Congress if he does not feel that they are fit for the country. Also, the vice president, also part of the executive branch, is a tie-breaking member of the Senate if there is a tie on a particular bill or law. This, in some ways, limits a little bit of the power of Congress and the legislative branch. Separately, the executive branch can also keep a check on the judicial branch, our court system. In the Constitution, the president is given the ability, or actually the responsibility, of appointing federal judges, including Supreme Court justices on the rare occasion of an empty seat on the Supreme Court. Now let's look at the legislative branch and see in which ways it keeps a check on the president and the executive branch and also the court system. So let's use an example. Let's say that Congress passes a bill that they feel is absolutely necessary for the good of the country, but the president, for whatever reason, chooses not to sign it and vetoes that bill, so it does not go into effect. If Congress feels that this law is so necessary that they're able to get more than a 2/3 majority to vote in favor of the law, they can actually override the president's veto so that it does not matter whether the president approves of this law or not, it will go into effect. Another check of the legislative branch towards the executive branch is the ability to impeach the president. If the president is either not fulfilling his role as president or is in some way truly overstepping his bounds, the legislative branch has the ability to impeach the president and potentially remove them from office. Remember how we said the president can assign federal judges to the judicial branch? Well, another check that Congress or the legislative branch has on the judicial branch is that they have to approve of any presidential nominees. If they feel that someone that the president chooses for one of these spots is unfit to serve, they reject that appointment and the president has to go back and choose somebody else. And just like with the president, Congress can also impeach federal judges in cases necessary for the public good. Lastly, let's talk about the judicial branch and how it checks the power of the legislative branch as well as the executive branch. The way in which the judicial branch keeps its eye on Congress and keeps them in check is by their ability to review laws and declare them unconstitutional in situations in which those laws do not follow the guidelines of the Constitution. This could be a law that was created by Congress that goes against individual rights that are provided in the Constitution under the first 10 amendments, among other things. Additionally, the judicial branch keeps checks on the executive branch in a very similar way. If there are particular actions taken by the executive branch, the Supreme Court can also declare those actions as unconstitutional, and they should cease to be done. So, by each branch having little powers over the other two branches, they're able to keep those other branches in check and prevent their power from growing too much or overtaking other branches' powers that might result in the abuse of citizens' rights. This is the concept of checks and balances. So, you think you got it?